Every so often throughout history, something has come along that's changed the way we think about things. Like powered flight, or television, or fiber optics. Things that challenge our assumptions about what is and is not possible. And in so doing stand as testimony to the power of dreams, innovative thinking, and the human spirit. In 1978, near Fort McMurray, Alberta, a switch was thrown to begin the full-scale production of what many people believed up to that point to be an impossible, or at least impractical, dream. A dream that once realized would change the way we think about energy and energy development forever.
Syncrude was actually incorporated in 1964, and at that point they defined the mission as to determine whether it was even technically or economically feasible to extract the oil from the oil sands. And yet we've come a long way since then. Syncrude's been recognized by the Engineering Institute of Canada as one of the top 10 engineering achievements of this century. And yet many of the experts at the time called us nothing more than an R&D curiosity that could never make it in the competitive world. But we've proved them wrong, and we've done that by continually being very innovative about everything we do, and also by applying leading-edge technology.
From the beginning, technology has been the key to unlocking the secret of the oil sands in a strange black syrup called bitumen. In the 1920s, a process was developed by which the bitumen could be separated from the sand through hot water flotation. Refined by a resourceful scientist, Dr. Carl Clark, this new process set the stage for a new era of innovation in energy. After decades of research and development and years of construction by an army of up to 15,000 workers from around the world, Syncrude's giant plant at Mildred Lake now produces an amazing product. A high-quality, light, sweet, synthetic crude oil.
The oil sands deposits in Alberta are absolutely huge. The numbers, trillions of barrels of oil, are almost meaningless. A better comparison is there's more oil in there than in Saudi Arabia. We've always known how to get the oil out. The trick is getting it out cheaply and in large quantities.
Right from the outset, innovation became the watchword for Syncrude. The need to do things differently was an outgrowth of the unique conditions and technical problems posed by the oil sands. Many of these challenges had never before been faced by the conventional petroleum industry.
Firstly, just the sheer size of all the equipment that we had to put into operation at Syncrude was something that had never really been performed before. Had to operate 24 hours a day, 365 days a year in an abrasive environment. We've seen some significant improvements there over the years in terms of our reliability on the mine equipment. Our bucket wheel conveyor systems operate today at 53% utilization, which is just as high as the best mines in the world that use bucket wheels, that are not operating in as extreme conditions as we have. In our extraction plant, we've had throughput increases there that today, for example, we're operating at 83% utilization, 4,300 tons an hour, and the original design of that plant was 2,900 tons an hour and in the low 70s in terms of utilization. The same thing applies in our upgrading complex, where on our large fluid cokers we're getting 27-month run lengths and daily throughput volumes of in excess of 100,000 barrels a day, when the units were designed to operate really in the mid 70,000 barrels per day. It's really been a dramatic improvement, and it's just been many thousands of little things that employees have done, along with investments in technology, of course, that have helped us to get there.
Many of the new technologies and processes required to do the job, some of which were literally invented overnight, had to deal with the unique challenges of mining rather than drilling for a petroleum resource. and then extracting that resource from the sand in which it was trapped. It is a complex, highly technical process composed essentially of 3 steps.
What we must do first is have an expensive clearing operation to basically even get at the resource and bring in our very large equipment. Then it involves moving not only the resource, but in fact 80 or more % by weight of additional material with it to an extraction process where for the first time the hydrocarbon or bitumen is unlocked from the sands.
A typical day in extraction would see us processing 400,000 tons of oil sand to produce about 225,000 barrels of bitumen. Extraction takes the mine feed produced by the mine, and we pass it through large rotating tumblers where we mix it with hot water and steam, and this creates what we call an oil sand slurry. The oil sand slurry is taken forward to deep cone settling vessels, and the bitumen floats off as a froth. At that point, the bitumen froth contains about 30% water and 10% fine solids. To make this product into something that the refinery can accept and process, we take the froth through a froth treatment plant where we reduce the water content to typically less than 4% and the fine solids to typically less than 1%, and that is the product that we supply to our customer upgrading.
What we do here is we take the bitumen mixture, which contains naphtha, water, and bitumen, into the diluent recovery unit. What we do there is remove the naphtha, which is recirculated for reuse, and we send that bitumen on to the coker for further processing. That's where we get the synthetic crude oils, which are treated so that they're suitable for market.
The energy required to run these operations comes from an on-site utilities plant with a capacity to light a city of 250,000. This state-of-the-art facility supplies both the power and the water required by Syncrude. And like the rest of the operation, it runs 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. None of what's happened here would have been possible without a tremendous research and development investment. During the 1960s and 70s, Syncrude's R&D budget swelled into the tens of millions of dollars in a ceaseless search for new and better ways of doing things.
Over the years, Syncrude has used research and development to really as a lever to reduce our operations costs and to improve our environmental performance. It's important that we encourage learning in everything we do, and it's also critical that we push technology to its limits. And we've been doing that with some great success over the last few years.
The relentless search for improvements continues. Today, with $26 million budgeted annually, Syncrude is among the top 20 R&D spenders in the country.
One of the real benefits that research and development people in Syncrude have is that they can come into the operation and they can work on several issues all at one time. They can work on opportunity A, issue B, problem C. And then when they put A, B, and C together and project forward with their knowledge of A, B, and C, very often they're able to come back to us and say, here's a problem or an opportunity that you're going to have 3 years down the road or 4 years down the road, and oh, by the way, here's the solution to it today. If you do a cost-benefit analysis around our research and development investment dollar, we have been getting a return of 8 to 1 on our research and development dollar for years now. And as an operations person interested in the bottom line, I like that return and I'd like many more years of it.
In addition to Syncrude's remarkable technical achievements are those which deal with another kind of resource, one which is just as vital to Canada's future as energy security. That resource is our environment.
Syncrude is committed to sustainable development. In fact, our policy is very clear. We won't knowingly create any adverse damage to the environment. We've been able to reduce our energy consumption by about 35% in the last 10 years. Another area is sulfur dioxide emissions. Even though our production has steadily increased over the years, and we've even had a major expansion with the capacity addition project, our sulfur emissions, both in an absolute terms and on a per barrel term, are lower today than they were in the past. In fact, on a per barrel basis, we reduced them by 30%.
Environmental specialists were among the first people hired by Syncrude. Through them, the company learned new and innovative ways to protect and restore the environment. Its land reclamation and wetlands development programs are models for industry. To date, the company has planted over 1.5 million trees on reclaimed mine land. In early 1993, a highly unique and innovative alternative end land use project came to fruition.
The wood bison was native to northern Alberta up until the mid-1800s approximately, and the demise of the wood bison happened at about the same time as the plains bison. They are now a threatened species. There are only about 2,300 left in the world. We see this as an exciting opportunity to assist in the conservation of these animals and in the return of these animals to at least a part of their historic range. The bison are part of our reclamation program, and we're looking at alternatives to reforesting this area, alternatives that will provide direct and immediate benefits to the people that live in this area after the oil sands activity is finished.
While Syncrude's impact on both the technological and environmental fronts is very impressive, there's little doubt that the company's greatest and most positive impact has been economic in nature.
Well, Syncrude's been profitable every year since we started up in 1978. In fact, last year we had a return of almost 8% on our capital employed, which was 3 times better than the industry average. And over the last 5 years, our average has been about 5.5%, which again is much better than industry averages. So we're very pleased in that we have been profitable every year since startup. Not quite as high as we'd like to have it, but it's been on a positive trend line and improving all the time. Well, we had a couple years of low oil prices. In 1986, in fact, they went below $10 a barrel US. And in '88, we also had a long period of low oil prices. And we were able to weather those downturns through cost efficiencies and deferring programs and finding new opportunities to save money. And as a result, our operating cash flow remained positive. So we have always been in a positive operating cash flow position since the startup of our plant.
If you think about a mega project as being a project that's $5 billion, that takes 5 years to build, and that produces one big jolt to the Canadian economy, well, at Syncrude we spend over $1 billion a year on operating expenses, on purchased goods, services, salaries, plus another $150 million a year on average for new capital projects. So in effect, every 4 years, we give that same jolt to the Canadian economy. Or in other words, we're a recurring mega project every 4 years.
Well, we found in a study of about 5 years ago that for every $1 billion spent in our industry, it generates $1.5 billion in gross national product, $800 million in federal revenues and $300 million in provincial revenues. So that just gives you another sense of how the spin-offs find their way through the Canadian economy.
In order for Syncrude to remain competitive and continue to be a positive economic force, the company has staked a great deal on the ability and willingness of its people to improve their knowledge and skills on an ongoing basis. What the company calls education, training, and lifelong learning is a way of life for almost everyone who works here.
I think we made the connection some time ago that if we are to have people contributing to the maximum of their individual ability and their ability as an organization, then we have to train and educate them along those lines so that they're able to do that. We believe that does 2 things. One is it makes the company more effective, and secondly, it provides a lot more satisfaction to the individual employee.
Among the programs developed by Syncrude is one which has had great success in moving women out of the more traditional administrative and support roles and into trade, process, and operations functions. Called Bridges, the program has taken workers like Sherry Tuffin out from behind the desk and put them behind the wheel.
The Bridges program is set up to bring primarily female employees from traditional roles in the administrative area to non-traditional roles in the Syncrude workforce. Examples would be overburden operator, which I am, or an electrician, a machinist. There was a wide variety of options, and I chose to come out into overburden, and it worked out well.
With such a heavy investment in human resources, it is little wonder that Syncrude goes to extraordinary lengths to protect the people who work here. To Syncrude, worker health and safety and competitiveness are inextricably linked.
The attitude about safety and health as related to productivity is probably the thing that I think separates it from other companies.
In the end, objective is to have people manage their day-to-day activities in a way that they are managing their work safely, reliably. They're taking the appropriate steps to avoid injuries, production losses, environmental losses, losses to capital equipment.
I think that there's a firm belief here on the part of senior management that if we are safe and reliable, that's what's going to make us productive. And we follow through on that by establishing programs at a fair cost to the company to ensure that happens.
To the over 4,200 people and 1,200 contractors who work here, Syncrude represents more than just a job. It represents an enduring and continuously improving dream. A dream that in September 1992 saw the company ship its 600 millionth barrel of synthetic crude oil. A dream that has seen the cost of producing a single barrel of synthetic crude oil reduced by over 50% since the early 80s. Making Syncrude not only more competitive with conventional producers, but profitable as well.
What we would like to do is continue reducing our unit operating costs in the Syncrude operation and try to get them down to the $13, $14 Canadian per barrel position. And if we can do that, we feel that we're a very viable alternative to conventional crude oil. As conventional crude oil runs out, the exploration costs and the finding costs in the Western Canada Sedimentary Basin are going to be quite a bit higher, and we will be able to then demonstrate that we're a viable alternative to conventional oil production.
We've got the technology, we've got the people and the know-how, and Syncrude has been a company of innovation, and continuous improvement has sort of been a way of life with us. And we've got all the elements to put those together and to make a real future success, to build on our current successes for the company and for the country. So I find that really exciting and something that I look forward to working on over the next few years.
Today, this company, once considered just a dream, is the largest single source of crude oil in Canada, and the nation's second largest producer of petroleum, supplying almost 12% of this country's annual needs. Syncrude is also the nation's largest industrial employer of Native people.
Incorporating or integrating natives into our workforce was just as important as any other key element of our operation. And people like myself understood it to be exactly that and took it just as seriously. There was no higher priority. This was not some kind of a social program. This was a very hard core approach to going out and recruiting people and getting them to stay, giving them the support they needed. And we did it. We did it in a very business-like way. And I'm pleased to say that we've been very successful.
Throughout the years, we've had some considerable success by working with each of the bands in the region. We now have approximately 300 natives on our staff, which is about over 6% of our total payroll. In addition to that, there's another 200 to 250 natives that work with our contractors and suppliers. More recently, we've actually been developing the entrepreneurs within the native communities by actually setting up native-owned businesses to do business with us. And we now have about 17 native businesses in the area, and last year, for example, Syncrude did over $20 million of work with those native-owned enterprises. And one of the things we've learned from our native employees is teamwork. That's a fundamental characteristic of native cultures, and it's kind of funny that business people in North America spend thousands of dollars to hire consultants to teach them teamwork, and yet we've got that resource right here.
I don't want to create an impression that everything goes completely smoothly. It doesn't. We expect the Native leaders to put their concerns on the table. Their concerns are our concerns, and we hope to work them out to our mutual satisfaction.
Although the world now consumes oil faster than it can be found, Syncrude has tapped into a resource that can fuel Canada's energy needs for generations to come. While some may call it unconventional, this company simply refers to it as our future.
Since 1973 alone, the production of light conventional crude oil, which is the kind that can be run in our Canadian crude oil refineries, has declined by 500,000 barrels per day. And today it only meets about 2/3 of Canada's crude oil requirements. If you use the National Energy Board forecast, the supply of light conventional crude oil will decline even further, and by the year 2005, only about 1/3 of Canada's requirements will be met from existing conventional light crude oil sources. Canada really does have a choice. I mean, we could secure our energy future and in a large part secure our economic future by developing these vast resources that we have that we're blessed with. Or we can increasingly depend on Middle East oil and Middle East politics.
To the tens of thousands of other Canadians whose lives have been touched by Syncrude, this remarkable innovation in energy development represents not only a secure energy future for Canada, but also an example of the kind of innovation and imagination that will continue to fuel our dreams, our belief in ourselves, and our ability as a nation to compete with anyone else in the world.
It really is a Canadian success story, and it builds on fundamental technology. It was developed in Alberta way back in the 1920s by Dr. Carl Clark, actually working in his wife's washing machine, learning how to extract the bitumen from the oil sands. So when you put that together with just the sheer size of the operation and the harsh climate and all of the challenges that have had to be overcome, I think it just builds that can-do type of spirit in all of the employees, and so we've been really tapping that, and that's one of the fundamentals for success. And I think the results really are speaking for themselves.